so the share price could potentially go up 7 times. Hi guys, it's Eric from Hong Kong based in Germany. I've been investing since I was 17 years old for almost 20 years. I want to give you guys alternative perspective about investment and on personal finance. Today I want to talk about if Lucid would be the next Tesla. Tesla's price was $6 in 2012. Guess how much it is now? The stock price is $1,230 on the 4th of November this year, an increase of 205 times. Yes, so if you invest $10,000 at that time, now you will have $2,050,000. So is Lucid going to do the same? So what's new with Lucid? The stock price is roughly $52, which increased 415% since the start of the year. During the same period of time, S&P only increased 2.69%, so you can see the big difference. There must be some trigger, right? In quarter 3, they see 17,000 reservations in total, which expect revenue of $1.7 billion, let alone that they have cash of $4.8 billion, which is pretty good for their expansion, right? So who the hell is Lucid? They were founded in 2007 as Ativa by Bernadette and Sam Wang. Both of them have very distinct Hong Kong surnames. But that's not the main point. It's based in Newark, California, and their factory is in Arizona. Lucid CEO Peter Ronson was the VP for engineering in Tesla, so he was the guy behind Model 3. And Lucid's own VP, Derek Jenkins, was the head of design in Mazda North America. The whole management team of Lucid are veterans of Tesla, veterans of other automotive industries, and also in technology industry. So they are super experienced. Lucid is backed by the Saudi Public Investment Fund, owning up to 60% of their share before the IPO. In fact, they only had their IPO in July by merging with Churchill Capital 4, a SPAC, Special Purpose Acquisition Company. If you have no idea what is IPO or what is SPAC, check out the link above or in the description below. But the main point is that they raised $4.4 billion, ample fund for them to expand rapidly. So what's the deal? They make electric vehicles that are, quote, post-luxury, including, for example, the interior would have naturally colored alpaca wool. Of course, the price tag is also not low, $169,000 before federal tax credit. This is for Dream Edition, the most expensive one. There's a cheaper one called Air Pure, which will cost $77,000. So is it any good? It has been named the Car of the Year in 2022 by Motor Trend. In comparison, in 2021, the title was held by E-Class Mercedes, which is using traditional engines. Also, there are 17,000 reservations already made by November 2021. The biggest edge they have, however, is their range. In fact, they're number 1. We're talking about 520 miles, 836 kilometers. We're talking about one charge. That's crazy, isn't it? And it's not just claimed by themselves, but tested by the EPA in the US, the Environmental Protection Agency. In fact, among all the electric vehicles tested by the EPA, the top 6 in terms of range are all from Lucid, among different models and wheel sizes. So what's the grand plan? They want to deliver 20,000 cars in 2022 with a revenue of $2.2 billion. And by 2026, they want to deliver 251,000 cars with a projected revenue of $22.8 billion. In comparison, Tesla delivered 510,000 cars in 2020 with a revenue of $32.5 billion. So we're talking about that Lucid aimed to, in 5 years, to achieve half of the volume that Tesla did in 2020, with roughly 2/3 of the revenue. Well, that makes sense because the per unit price of cars in Lucid is higher than Tesla. So is Lucid the next Tesla? I have 3 key questions to ask. The first question is about valuation. There are 2 parts. A part is whether it meets value investment criteria. The second part is that whether it makes sense compared with Tesla. The second question is about production. Is the production target realistic or not? The third question, probably the most important question, is that demand. Are there enough demand for that, and whether they have enough competitive edge in order to win the competition? This is extremely important. Let's talk about valuation or market capitalization on the stock market. On 16th of November 2021, for the first time, Lucid surpassed Ford in terms of market cap. They reached almost $89.9 billion. Oh, so let's take Ford as a comparison. Since Lucid's market cap surpassed Ford, let's look at their revenue and profitability. With revenue, in the first 9 months of 2021, Ford generated $98.7 billion of revenue. In comparison, Lucid generated $232,000. So Ford's revenue was 493,500 times higher than Lucid. How about profit? Ford made $5.7 billion in the first 9 months of 2021. During the same period of time, Lucid lost $1.5 billion. So there's no comparison of price to earnings ratio because there's no earnings with Lucid. Since we do not have price to earnings ratio to compare, let's compare the price to sales ratio of the two companies. For Lucid, the forecast, or at least the target in 2022, is $2.2 billion. That's the sales forecast. How about Ford? Ford, they had no sales forecast, so let's take the last full year value, which is 2020. The sales revenue was $127 billion, and the market cap of both companies are roughly $90 billion. Then we have the price to sales ratio. For Ford, it's 0.7. How about Lucid? It's 40, 57 times higher than Ford. Therefore, if we evaluate in the traditional way of value investment, there's no possibility to buy Lucid. It doesn't make any profit, and the price to sales ratio is extremely high. However, we can look at how it compares with Tesla, because this is a similar situation, right? Things get more interesting if you compare with Tesla. The price to sales ratio of Tesla is around 30 by the end of November. Lucid is around 40, so it's roughly 1/3 higher than Tesla. But one can argue that Lucid would grow faster than Tesla because its size is much smaller, right? And the second point is that the target of Lucid is $22.8 billion of revenue in 2026. If they can reach this target, the price to sales ratio would be only 4. Compared with almost 30 of Tesla now, there's a big catch up to go. We are talking about it could raise up to 7.5 times higher. So the share price could potentially go up 7 times. The second question is about whether their production targets are realistic or not. They plan to have 20,000 cars produced in 2022, which sounds quite realistic given that they just expand the capacity of their factory to 34,000 cars per year. But how about 251,000 target in 2026? Well, we can also take Tesla as an example. In the first year of mass production of Tesla, they made 22,000 cars in 2013. How about Lucid? They planned 20,000, so it's quite reasonable. But for 5 years, Lucid planned to have 251,000 by 2026. How about Tesla? Tesla, after 5 years of mass production, in 2017 they made 103,000 cars only. And it was just short of a miracle that Elon Musk pulled it off. So I wonder if Lucid would be able to pull that off plus 150%. The third question is the most controversial, about the demand and competitiveness. We're talking about Lucid Air Dream Edition is $170,000 before tax credit. It's roughly on a par with Mercedes S-Class, BMW 7 Series, Audi A8, etc. The forecast is that by 2025, the demand worldwide would be around 201,000. But Lucid's target is 251,000 in 2026. Is it going to have a market share of 150% or 125%? Let alone that Mercedes, the number one in luxury car sales, sold only 60,000 S-Class in 2020. That would be a big uphill battle. I think it's not realistic. Even though some of the cars of Lucid would be cheaper, maybe down to 77,000, but still, I don't think this is realistic in terms of market share. Second part of the question is about demand and competitiveness. They have a range of 520 miles, which is so far the best among all the e-cars. So maybe if they can keep this edge, they will have a much higher market share. And of course, they need to show reliability and quality and branding that is on a par with S-Class Mercedes or BMW 7 Series, which is an uphill battle. To summarize, for my question number 1, part A about valuation using traditional value investment methods. It doesn't make any sense. There's no PE ratio. Even the price to sales ratio is 57 times higher than Ford. That's a no-go. But if you look at question 1B about valuation comparing with Tesla, that makes more sense. Tesla's price to sales ratio is around 30. The price to sales ratio of Lucid is around 40. It's about 1/3 higher, but also supposed to grow faster than Tesla because it's a smaller size. So there's a chance that it could play a catch-up for up to 7 times if we look at the target revenue of $22.8 billion by 2026. The second question about production. I think it's realistic in the first year to produce 20,000 cars just like Tesla did. But if you talk about 251,000 cars in 5 years, I'm skeptical because Tesla only put out 103,000 cars in 5 years. I doubt that if they can surpass Tesla 150% in 5 years. The third question about demand is the biggest question that I have, because you're talking about 251,000 cars to be sold by 2026. But the luxury car market, we're talking about S-Class, A8, the total market worldwide is forecast to be 201,000 cars sold in 2025. Of course, I know that Lucid is not only going to sell their $170,000 per car runs, right? You also have the cheaper version like the Pure, which costs $77,000, which is more like the E-Class range. It's not the top luxury class. But still, I don't think that they can sell all of them because there's huge competition. Of course, they still have the edge about, the range of 520 miles, but you never know if someone would surpass that unless they keep the edge. So I have huge doubt about whether they will be able to make it to sell all of the cars, even if they're able to produce them. So in conclusion, for me, given that the price to sales ratio has a lot to catch up with Tesla, I could certainly speculate it for 1 or 2 years. But I'm not going to hold it for 5 or 6 years because I have doubt about whether they can deliver the production target in 6 years or 5 years' time, and also whether there's enough demand even if they have enough production capacity. So do you have other viewpoint about Lucid? Leave me in the comments below. If you like the video, remember like, share and subscribe. Even better, clicking the bell button next to the subscribe button so that you're not going to miss out.